So guys, we are unveiling the rumored potential SEC Super Conference. How many teams is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I think it's 20 teams total. A possible SEC conference you're looking at right now with the addition of Virginia, UNC, Clemson, as well as Florida State. So yes, that would be a 20-team SEC Super Conference. Is this the most likely scenario in the event we do expand, in the event that Notre Dame and Stanford end up in the Big Ten? The next idea is to push it to 20 teams, and with the SEC, you would certainly be looking at Clemson. You would certainly be looking at Florida State. I think those two schools would be locks. A little surprised they have Miami here and not Virginia. If we go to 20 teams, I think Virginia is headed to the Big Ten. I think Miami is headed to the SEC, and then also the Big Ten would take Notre Dame, Stanford, and then they need one more team to get to 20. What that team would be, maybe Washington. We've speculated that Washington is a more desirable asset at this point than Oregon is. And there's also the rent. Guys, we've got about every single rumor possible at this point with these super conferences. I mean, we've got every team going to every conference. The next rumor I'm waiting for is Ohio State to the MAC or something like that. But there's also the idea that the SEC is pissed off that the Big Ten has become this, cross-country entity because now they've got two teams in California and the SEC would want teams from the West. So would it make sense for the SEC to go after an Oregon, who would be desperate to join the conference, go after a Washington? It is possible. Of course, this all depends on what happens with the media deal the ACC currently has. We looked at yesterday the overall power rankings, the overall desirability of each team. And if the Big Ten gets Notre Dame, they would have the top 3 teams that are most powerful in college football because Ohio State was number 1, Michigan was number 2, and Notre Dame was number 3. And it's funny because we had heard a random anonymous SEC AD come out and say, oh, we're not going to expand even if Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten. Are you kidding me? If Notre Dame goes to the Big Ten and they take Stanford with them, that makes the Big Ten an 18-team conference, and the Big Ten becomes by far the number 1 most powerful conference in college football. There wouldn't even be a question. The SEC, if the SEC wants to be superior, which we all know they do, you would have to go after Clemson. Or maybe you go and try and take the Pac-12 schools, Washington and Oregon, but you'd have to do something in response to Notre Dame going to the Big Ten. The only things we know for sure right now, if Notre Dame today said, we want to join the Big Ten, Notre Dame would be in the Big Ten, and they would take either Stanford, or if Stanford doesn't want to go to the Big Ten for whatever reason, I'm just speculating. I don't know what Stanford's opinion is. I'd imagine they'd go to the Big Ten. If Stanford doesn't go with Notre Dame, Washington would go to Notre Dame, would go with Notre Dame to the Big Ten, and the SEC would be left clearly behind. Because guys, think about it. Before Notre Dame even joins the Big Ten is still going to get a bigger media deal than the SEC. With both of these conferences at 16 teams, a few days ago, there was a major calculation done, and apparently the Big Ten is going to outpace the SEC in terms of their media deal, and they're going to make over $130 million by the year 2029. So the SEC would have to expand at that point, and you would be looking at, this is a 20-team league. Of course, Clemson is a lock. Clemson is a lock, and you would have to also think Florida State would be a lock as well to join the SEC. And then if it gets to 20, you still need 2 more teams. Virginia just fits the Big Ten way better. So Virginia, to me, would be going to the Big Ten. academically it fits it, culturally it's just way better in the Big Ten. And you would have the SEC, instead of Virginia, they would be taking Miami. And you would have kind of a crazy Florida rivalry between Miami, between Florida, and between Florida State, all being in the same conference. And guys, yesterday I talked about this. I know what's going to happen when it comes to the scheduling with these super conferences. I'm going to lay it all out once again. There was a rumor yesterday from a high-up source that said the Big 12 is contemplating changing their scheduling, going to a different format where they play 10 conference games and 2 non-conference games. And that makes... I said this was going to happen. I said it was going to happen. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to play 10, especially with these super conferences, you have more teams in the conference, so you're going to play more conference games. And the more conference games you play, the more chances you get matchups of Ohio State versus UCLA in the Rose Bowl, USC versus Michigan in Michigan Stadium. That's what they want. They want more matchups that are going to generate better ratings, more revenue. Every weekend, you're going to get major matchups. They're going to trim it down to 2 non-conference games. And the model in the non-conference is going to be you face 1 good out-of-conference game and you face 1 local school to help with their, financial situation. Like when Ohio State faces Toledo, it's really just to give Toledo a free $1 million, right? That's what it is. Obviously, you got to have those easy games, but the new structure of scheduling is the 10 conference games, the 2 non-conference games. One of the non-conference game is going to be a competitive home and home. The other non-conference game is going to be a crap one versus a smaller local school, like when Western Michigan faces Michigan at the Big House, MAC schools facing Big Ten schools, things like that. So I think that's the future, and it's crazy because you look at the SEC scheduling and how they do it and how they've done it. They play 12 games, 8 conference games, 4 non-conference games. 3 out of the 4 non-conference games all suck. So you have a 12-game regular season if you're Georgia. 3 of your games already suck. Your 4th one is a non-conference, probably neutral site crap game, just like this year. These teams, it got so bad, these SEC teams had 4 non-conference games. 3 of them were just crap, group of 5 teams, and the other game would be a crap neutral site game. Look at Alabama's non-conference last year. They faced Miami in some crappy neutral site thing. So think about how much we're upgrading if the SEC, when they expand, they go from an 8-game conference schedule to a 10-game conference schedule, and one of your 2 non-conference games is a good home and home. That's 11 out of the 12 games that are either conference games or competitive football games. That's exactly what they want. And then people say, why would teams do that? If we expand to a 12-team playoff, you could lose 2 games and still get into the playoff. You have a margin for error. That's the whole problem. That's the pressure cooker of college football. That's why Michigan has nobody scheduled on their non-conference schedule this year because they're afraid of losing a non-conference game. So now you have 1 loss going into conference play. You're in the Big Ten East. You have Penn State. You have Ohio State. You have Michigan State. If you've already got 1 loss going into Big Ten play, it's going to be very tough. Now, if the playoff expands to 12 teams in 2026, you have a margin for error. You can lose 2 games and still make the playoff. That's how college football should work. And again, guys, I don't know if the SEC expands to 20 teams or not, but this is a very interesting model. And yeah, this is exactly what I would say it would look like without Virginia. If the SEC is at 20 teams, make no mistake about it, the Big Ten will also be at 20 teams. And Virginia, in my opinion, this is my speculation, Virginia would be in the Big Ten, Miami. Apparently there's a big issue with Miami and some of those Florida teams about Miami possibly joining the SEC, but I think at the end of the day, it would resolve itself and they would get into the conference. North Carolina is an interesting one. We have heard the SEC does want North Carolina. My only question is what happens to Duke? Because you've got that rivalry, so that would be very unfortunate if those 2 teams weren't in the same conference. But North Carolina is, wanted by programs. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back and look at North Carolina versus Duke Guys, I swear to you, I have over 6,500 photos on my, or screenshots on my phone. I'm not going to be able to find this. It's got to be around, hold on. Okay, so North Carolina is tied for 22nd with Oregon in terms of, conference power rankings. How valuable is your program? How much would your program? That's crazy that Iowa. Man, Iowa's above Oregon. Is that due to their wrestling program, do you guys think, with Iowa? I would think Iowa would be in the 30s. Iowa State is 27th? I heard Iowa State had horrible academics. But either way, so Notre Dame is clearly more valuable than Duke. I don't see Duke anywhere inside the top 34. Nebraska should be... No way. No way is Nebraska 33. They're more valuable than that. Nebraska is below Arizona. I did not look at these rankings. See, I know they're done by some sort of metric, but if I am starting a conference for college football, I would want Nebraska over Arizona State. I'm sorry. It's just the fan base, the tradition. Same thing over NC State. Northwestern has the academics. That's very appealing to like the Big Ten. But that's crazy that Iowa State is 27 and Nebraska is 33. But either way, guys, so yeah, it's very clear that North Carolina is a valued commodity. There were rumors that North Carolina was possibly going to the Big Ten, North Carolina to the SEC. That's been the huge thing. Where will North Carolina go? How will it affect Duke and other schools? Most likely scenario, if 4 teams get added, so we get a 20-team SEC, it is going to be FSU, it's going to be Miami, it's going to be Clemson, and then it's going to be North Carolina, right? And then the Big Ten would take, I've gone over this, Notre Dame, Stanford, Virginia, and then possibly Washington over Oregon to get to 20 teams. And then Oregon would be completely screwed. That's a horror scenario. Think about that. 20-team expansion in the SEC, 20-team expansion in the Big Ten. Oregon is still left out. Oregon has to try and convince the SEC that they need a Western footprint. That's what Oregon has to do, in my opinion. But guys, this is just interesting. We're just going over this, talking about it. I think we get one more big domino. I'm desperate. I need something, guys. I need this. I need the 3 Big 12 schools to go to, or the 3 Pac-12 schools to go to the Big 12. I need it. I seriously need it, guys. I'm desperate. Okay? We need it to happen. Remember, people are saying it's getting late. Late July. I think it was July 30th. It wasn't until July 30th until it was announced and it was confirmed. The big move last year with Texas and Oklahoma. So we still may get another bombshell. There's going to be no Big Ten bombshells, at least based on all the recent rumors over the past week. We had that original USC, UCLA. Then everyone the next few days were like, everything's going to happen. Nothing ends up happening. Now we're realizing Notre Dame wants to wait. So nothing's going to happen in the Big Ten. Nothing's going to happen in the SEC. They're content with 16 teams for this year. Our only hope right now is the Big 12 adding 3 teams. 3 teams. Utah, it doesn't look like they're going. It would be Arizona, Arizona State, and Colorado. That's our hope. That's what we hope happen. We need action. We need something to happen, guys. That's the thing. We need something to happen. But this is an interesting rumor. We'll see what happens. But guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.